Welcome to the Cosmic Fold Paranormal Highway, where we don't just drive past the weird, we pull over, set up a tripod, and start asking really bad questions. Today we head to Connecticut, a small state with a long memory. A place of covered bridges, colonial ghost stories, and one very busy sky. It's July 1919. Prohibition is in full swing. Women are weeks away from getting the vote. And over in East Hartford, something strange is happening on Forbes Street. Locals called it Skunk's Misery, which already sounds like a place where you'd see a ghost. Almost every night between 9 p.m. and midnight, a light said to be about the size of an apple would appear out of nowhere. Sometimes red, sometimes white. It floated, darted, dipped into the woods, and at least once jumped clean over a car. Shots were fired, experts showed up. Theories ranged from fairies to swamp gas to maybe someone's lantern got loose and got ideas. No one could explain it. And just like that, Connecticut had its first documented light chase. It got so big that people threw ghost parties, rode in with banners, and got disappointed when the light didn't show. The Hartford Courant called it a phantom light. The locals called it Thursday. In October 2018, a YouTube video from UAG Magic surfaced under the modest title, UFO in Bloomfield, Connecticut. What it shows is simple, maybe eerie. Glowing red and white objects appear in the night sky. The same colors were described by multiple witnesses almost 100 years earlier. At least these lights were bigger than apples.
I have no idea what these are, but they're floating around here. It's Thursday night. They're all over the place. There's more coming. I don't know what these are. Are these ashes? Are these aliens? I don't know, but they keep coming. They look like they're on fire. They look like they could be ashes from a fire.
In Fairfield County, just 4 years later, that same color scheme reappeared. And this time, it wasn't just caught on camera. It caught the attention of law enforcement and was featured on News Nation. Officer Robert Klein, a 25-year veteran of the force, was on midnight patrol near a reservoir in April 2022. Suddenly, a glowing object hovered just 30 feet from his cruiser. It lit up the entire cab, he said. The orb shifted colors, red, green, orange, white, and zipped across a lake with instantaneous speed. He saw it, he filmed it. He heard a low hum, and he reported it. Ben Hansen, host of UFO Witness, investigated and found similar reports nearby, including orbs flying over a local community center. Connecticut, it seems, doesn't just have ghosts in its woods. It has something up in its sky that's a little too fast for comfort. Connecticut, charming, coastal, and believe it or not, a full-blown UFO hotbed. For decades, the skies above the Nutmeg State have been lighting up with strange craft, silent triangles, and glowing orbs that vanish without a trace. And that's just the beginning. Tonight on the Cosmic Fold, we also dive into the eerie story behind the Snedeker Family Haunting, a former funeral home turned house of horrors. And of course, we can't talk Connecticut weirdness without two of the early pioneers of ghost hunting, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Their haunted museum may be closed, but their legacy still creeping us out. It's part one of our Connecticut Paranormal Highway, a twilight ride through the UFO files and haunted hallways of the unknown.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
Hey, gang.
Hey. I got to tell you, I don't see the intros, obviously, until the show starts because I'm not on the production team. My favorite part of that was the procession of cars from the 1920s with the women sitting up top with the going to a ghost party sign. Oh my God, I lost it. I'm glad I have my mic muted.
Connecticut at least has a sense of humor with this stuff. That came from there was like this series, and I don't remember what newspaper it was. And they were actually posting in there about the ghost parties, and everybody was trying to see these lights. And some people did, but most of them, it was just a party.
Right.
But I was surprised at how much, for some reason, I guess maybe it's my own bias for living out here. I thought, most of the sightings were out west, but my God, Connecticut has got a ton of them.
Well, you got to take into account the original 13 colonies. They were settled and built significantly before even the Western frontier was completed. So there's a lot of history, and because they're bigger cities, there's a lot more condensed whatever, out there. Yeah.
Very true. That's why we're doing this one. That's why we're doing this one as a two-parter, because there are so many hauntings that there's just no way we can get this into an hour show tonight. So, well, how's your reading voice, Al? You ready to go? We've got some more UFOs
Yes,
here.
in fact, I am ready right now. Ooh, UFOs over Connecticut, lights, discs, and aerial mysteries. I should put my hand over, that guy from Connecticut, a UFO hotbed. In October 2023, the Connecticut Mirror reported that there may have been more than 2,000 reports of UFO sightings in the state since 1998, according to community submissions to the National UFO Reporting Center. Newington and Norwalk were the only towns having more than 60 UFO sighting reports. That's 2,000 reports in 25 years. That amounts to 80 a year. And there's a little graphic over here if you're going to be watching. It's over there, I think. If you're going to be watching this. But yeah, that's a lot.
It's insane.
Yeah. That's what, 2 a week? Almost 2, 1.5 a week, something like that.
And where this chart came from, I guess the National UFO Reporting Center, they have like this updated grid. So when the reports come in, or a database, and then you can embed it on your website. And I noticed the newspapers out there really watch this stuff. It's kind of a big thing, and kind of like in the beginning, video too. Mm-hmm. That News Nation, if you want to find out the latest on UFO stuff, they're really good about that. And, where that cop, it actually, and he caught it on film. I just, I don't steal people's content, but it actually shows, how this thing just zips off and goes over a lake, and, from a cop, that's pretty legit, I think.
Yeah. 1983 to 1984, the Hudson Valley lights over Fairfield. The event was a large silent V-shaped light. We've covered V-shaped lights in so many shows, ladies. V-shaped lights seen over Fairfield County, part of the broader Hudson Valley Flat. Excuse me. Later revealed formation flying hoax by local pilots. Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, they've got a sense of humor out there.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. May 26, 1987, Torrington mass sighting. Over 200 witnesses across Torrington, Newton, and New Milford described a huge silent craft with multicolored lights larger than a football field. Multiple car engines failed during the sighting, and according to I-95 Rock, the home of rock and roll, not only were there many witnesses, but there were some who were trained to rule out spaceships. The incident in May of 1987 was not an isolated one. There were 7,000 UFO reports to the police originating from the Hudson Valley in the 1980s.
Wow.
The reports had similar descriptions of a semicircle, triangle, or boomerang-shaped craft covered in lights and roughly the size of a football field. And there's a picture over here from Randy Edding, captured it. Lights of Newton. Yeah, the lights of Newton, Connecticut in 1987. That's very interesting.
I had some questions about that picture because I also found out Wikipedia and the way he's got it, like some components of this are paid. So it's like, yeah, maybe he made a depiction of what it was, but still the fact that they had that many calls into the police, this seems bigger to me than the Phoenix Lights because people's engines were all stopping.
Yeah.
And I never heard of it before until doing this.
Yeah.
But that's really remarkable.
It is. It's very cool. May 21st, 2019, Kent UFO incident. Witnesses observed a flashing object with 3 lights stationary in the sky. Several helicopters were seen circling it, described as a hovering craft with a steady light pattern. And there's a AI version of, I guess, whatever was described in there. But that's from the Connecticut Post.
And obviously, authorities knew about it if there were helicopters going around.
Well, yeah, you would think, yeah. June 23rd, not too far after that, in 2019, the Hamden hovering disc-shaped craft with 3 lights seen hovering in Hamden, silent, monitored by stationary and circling helicopters. That's copters again. Experienced aircraft observers stated it was not a plane or a drone, again from the Connecticut Post. Well, there you go. Have you seen anything? From red and white lights in 1919 to red orbs in 2022, Connecticut skies have been throwing a century-long light show with no known sponsor.
Pretty interesting stuff. And as usual, I've barely even cracked it. Well, we have in the wings here Cathy, who I'm going to bring in. And when she talks, I'm going to mute myself so it doesn't echo. We played with this earlier today. But she saw something last night. So if you guys are able to talk without it echoing, ask her questions. Hi, Kath.
Hi, Cathy.
Evening,
Hi, Cathy.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm excited and happy.
Good. Those are 2 great things to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so am I echoing or anybody having problems?
You sound great over here in Atlanta.
Okay, so what happened was, ever since Deb started all this, I've been putting it out there that it's time for me to see another UFO. And I've been going out lately at night. I don't have the patience to hang long, so that's night for all day that day. My son did some AI stuff with quantum physics and how we are creators and how we're creating and manifesting. And, the point is just focus on that one thing and, it just comes. So I'm focusing on that UFO and I grab my phone and decide I'm going out and I'm there for a while. I get bored. I come back in. So I look up just before I get to my door, and there's a whole string of orbs just floating by. Kind of like, I thought, well, is that some sort of, cosmic snake drifting through the sky there? And I tried to get my phone going. That I had to get my husband. That was the main thing, was to get my husband out there to see it so I get no more eye rolls.
Yeah. Those kind of go with the territory.
I got him out there. It was going so slow. That was the amazing thing for me, was that it just moved, inch by inch across the sky. And he came out, he saw it. It was just about getting beyond our sight over the house.
Yeah.
And he saw it. It was fading though. It wasn't as bright as what I saw. And it was fading. And I said, well, you don't think that's a string of satellites all in a line? He goes, no, and it's moving. I said, yeah, I know, it's moving. It went across the whole street here. And so, yeah, then it disappeared.
Wow.
Just faded
Okay,
away.
I'm going to ask a question here, although it's going to echo back to me probably. But what color were they, and what direction were they going?
They were white. They just looked like stars. A lot of stars were out. And when I first saw it, I tried to rationalize that there was some star system that was in straight of a line, but then it was moving, so that didn't make sense. But
interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
And
yeah,
so,
that is very interesting.
And what did your?
It was about 10. I mean, at first I started saying at least 15, at least 20. 20 was in a line. But I looked, trying to imagine it in my mind again and count them. But I'm thinking a little over 10, maybe between 10 and 15 in a line.
Wow. Hey, Day.
Hi.
So,
but they were white.
Yeah.
What direction were they, like east, west? Could you tell?
I tried to think of that today because I don't know east, west, that stuff. The sun sets in the east, so I was
in the west.
They were coming from the east, and they floated over the street, Deb. You know the street, and they came over the street over my house. Well, they weren't actually over my house; they were on the side of the house, and they just went. And then once they past my house, they faded and disappeared.
Did you see by any chance the pillar of light out here?
I didn't. And I told you I searched UFO sightings on Facebook for Concho, and someone had posted it on there. Wow. On Facebook. And but I'll tell you something, years and years and years ago, what I saw. I had a friend, matter of fact, his son is in the Great White Band. And I don't know if it was real, but we were going to psychic classes in LA, and he wanted to be a psychic. And I think a lot of it was game playing with him. But one night I was at his house and we were doing a psychic thing. And I came home. It was like, I don't know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I looked up and there was a star that had a beam of light coming down from it. I mean, I was only like 19 or 20 when that happened. But that was bizarre. That was a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Al.
No, I was just commenting on the similarity of Cathy's story to a lot of the ones that we've talked about in the past. Those patterns, the color, even the direction, which is why I know you asked if it was north, south, east. And by the way, Cathy, I don't do the north, south, east, west. I don't know my ass from a hole in the ground.
Me neither.
Is it towards the Walmart, towards the Target, towards Kroger, or towards the auto parts store?
I point directions. So it was over there. It's like that's the wrong way. That's right. Oh,
so did they fade, or did they just keep moving?
They faded.
Slowly?
They faded, and I thought afterwards, because here's another strange thing that happened that night. I have this picture. Let me grab it.
That's a cool touch back there.
You see?
Yeah.
Behind her.
Okay, so I painted that when I first moved here, probably in '93 or something, and last night. So I called my son, and right after the experience at 8:30, that was, and I was sitting outside, and I was looking at the stars, and I'm seeing the Big Dipper and stuff, and all of a sudden I saw that I saw that. There was three stars in a triangle with a star in the middle. And I thought, my God, that looks like my picture. What constellation is that? I'm thinking that to myself, and all of a sudden it just disappeared. It just is like the next time I look back at it, there was only 2 stars.
Wow.
And then I look back again, and there's only 1 sitting there in that spot. So I don't know if that was a sign they were telling me something, or now I want to look up that triangle with the star in the middle and see if it means anything.
So what did your husband say?
Oh, Sammy.
They don't. He's a vet.
Very basic. He's very basic in his understanding of the world. No, he's reality only. He's a mechanic. I don't know what he is.
But he's yours.
Well, he accepts it now. That's the thing. He saw the other one, that one we talked about, the metallic, what I thought was an airplane wing, but he denounced that, but he can't denounce this one. And he wouldn't come out. I'm yelling at him, get out of here, get out of here. The door's locked. I'm banging on the door. And he's going, I can't. I said, get out here right now. By that time, it's already almost to the house, where it's going to disappear behind the house. And I finally got out there and just caught the intel of it.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you saw something. Kind of on
Well, you know how much I've been wanting it, Deb, ever since you started your podcast and got me back into it. And, I gave all this stuff up years ago.
She's persuasive.
Yeah, it's just time to get back in. Well, actually, my book I wanted to write was what really brought me back. But,
it's a shame that Jose wasn't here tonight because, I'd love to be able to compare notes between the two of you guys, the direction of where this was, because I think you're seeing it all kind of in the same area.
Well, trying to, where I live, so where the highway is, and it was coming from town going towards New Mexico,
and that's what where I think he saw it too. So interesting what's going on.
Well, I want to get together and have a powwow out on the property this summer.
Oh, let me know.
Camp out.
So do you guys have any more questions about this, or?
No, it's a fascinating story.
That's all there is. No proof of nothing. I couldn't get the camera to line up to where it was, and I had to get out my husband, and it all happened probably in 5 minutes. So.
Well, that's the thing. It's hard for some reason. You can see them visually, but you try to get it like on your cell phone camera or whatever, and they're so faint you can't really see them on there anyway, which was why it was so interesting that Jose was able to get some. With his, because it's hard to try to film those. They don't show up very well.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask, in the thing, it showed the red orbs flying by, that picture. Now, is that real? Was that?
No, that's AI.
AI. But
yeah, it was a
I never seen red orbs. I never heard of red orbs.
But that's kind of what Jose saw. They were all kind of reddish.
He saw a whole fleet.
And like Justine and Matt, they look more white for them. But they saw that pillar of light. I don't know. Did you guys hear about that, Day and L, the pillar of light?
No.
It was.
That one slipped by.
It was.
You posted it on your Facebook, didn't you, Deb?
That's how I found out about it. It was blowing up. So it was May 16th, Friday night. And there was this huge, light that a lot of people saw. Some got scared. Some were in awe. people I know in town saw that. The husband was like, oh my God, it looked like the universe is getting ripped apart. And there were like 3 theories, one being that they're light pillars that are created by ice in the atmosphere. And if the, light bounces on it a certain way, but generally there's more than just one when you see those, because a lot of times you'll see them like during the Northern Lights. Then the second one was something called Steve, which again is a geomagnetic kind of storm thing that can be seen. And then the third rationale, and this came from Spacecom, that seems more legit to me than anything, is that it was a Chinese rocket and it was the fuel spillage coming out. And there was a huge geomagnetic storm that night that made this so visible. But it's really interesting, and they were able to track the coordinates and everything and say, well, this was this Chinese rocket. But what is fascinating to me about that is that you have a rocket and everybody's seeing it like in the 4 corners, all the way up into Canada, they saw it. And so, of course, you had the usual stuff on Facebook. Jesus is coming back. We're going to die. And then you had the other stuff like, oh, they're finally here. And but it was and I didn't see that either. I need to, I'm going to get a camera and put it on top of my building and try to catch stuff. So, because there's a lot out here for some reason. So you guys didn't see it either.
I think we all get together this summer.
I didn't, I'm not familiar with that pillar of light. Huh.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It even made the Arizona Republic out here, which is the largest newspaper in the state, like the official newspaper. And they looked at these 3 theories too, and they weren't quite sure if any of them really fit. It really was remarkable. It was a very cool thing.
I thought when I read, I seeing it showed up on my feed that morning, and they said that, I thought I read that they said the Chinese rocket falling back to Earth.
No, it was just the discharge that comes out when it was taking off.
Because that picture itself, it looks like that beam is coming from Earth.
Right.
Doesn't it?
Right. So when a rocket goes up, it would, I don't know.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But anyway, it's a cool thing. So, well, any more comments? Otherwise, we'll move to our next topic for the evening.
Anything? No, I'm good. Thank you for sharing that, Cathy. That was absolutely
Cathy. That was so cool.
How did it happen? I keep thinking all day, my bucket list. I can cross that off.
Well, next one you see, text me or call me so I can run out there and try to film it too.
Oh, it just happens so fast.
That's true.
I think there's enough of us in this town. I was gonna get Greer's. He has some sort of thing that you can link up with people in your area. It's a CES. It's a program. So it's only $10. So I'm thinking of getting that and seeing if there's more people in our area, and we get together this summer.
Could be fun. Could be fun.
And have a unity sighting.
There you go.
They'll show up.
Excellent.
I told them to show up last night and they came, so.
There you go. Cool.
Very
cool.
Well,
eyes to the skies, people. They're everywhere. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. I'll just leave you here. Raise your hand if you want to pop in, but we've got a video that's probably about 9 minutes long. To set the stage for our next part. So let's see. Where is it? Add to this stage.
Their oldest kid, Philip, got cancer when he was just 14. Doctors said he might only live 6 months unless they tried some intense treatments. It meant driving 8 hours every day to a hospital in Connecticut. The family realized that driving 8 hours every day for Philip's treatments was too much. It made Philip weaker, and they knew they needed to get him closer to his doctors. Carmen talked to her husband about moving to Connecticut. He agreed. Alan got a job transfer to Connecticut. Carmen went ahead to find a place for them to live. It was tough finding a big enough house for their 6 kids and within their budget. Landlords kept saying no. But then she saw a house with a "for rent" sign. Even though it was still being fixed up, Carmen loved it. It had 4 bedrooms and was close to the hospital. Carmen was worried it might be too expensive, but when she asked the owner, the rent was just right. They signed the agreement and started moving in. Finally, after all the struggles, they had a chance for things to be normal again, especially for Philip. As they moved in, when they checked the basement, they found a small room they hadn't seen before. It looked like it used to be a funeral home. Carmen was shocked and didn't want to move the kids to the house, but Alan convinced her they had no other choice. They had already signed the agreement and spent all their money on Philip's treatments. Even though Carmen was hesitant, Alan convinced her to continue with the move. They promised to keep the house's dark past a secret from their kids. The landlord removed some of the funeral equipment but left behind some tables and a freezer. As the family settled in, Philip and the other kids explored the house. Carmen started mopping the floors, but something strange happened. The water she used turned thick and dark red, like blood. She brushed it off as stress. Meanwhile, Philip went into the basement and felt a chilling presence. He heard a voice calling his name from a room. Terrified, he ran upstairs and told his mother they needed to leave because he didn't feel safe. At first, Carmen thought Philip's fear was just because of his illness and adjusting to the new house. But Philip's condition worsened. They even asked a priest to pray for Philip's healing. But things didn't get better. The whole family had moved into the former funeral home, but they hadn't told the kids about its past. Philip, however, had somehow figured it out on his own. Carmen thought it was because he was so sick that he could sense things others couldn't. With Alan back at work during the week, Carmen was left to manage the house and 6 kids alone. She tried to keep things normal, but strange things started happening. One day, their youngest daughter saw a scary figure in her room and ran to her mother. Carmen checked, but found nothing unusual, thinking it was just the boys playing a prank. When she confronted the boys, they denied knowing anything about it. Confused, Carmen brushed it off and went back to cooking dinner. But at night, the boys in the basement couldn't sleep. They kept hearing and seeing strange things, like someone moving behind closed doors. As the days went by, things got worse. Philip's illness made him see even more frightening things. Finally, the boys couldn't take it anymore and told their mother about the man they saw in the basement. Carmen tried to reassure them, thinking it was just their imagination, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. As the days passed, strange occurrences continued in the house. Carmen, busy with dinner preparations one evening, found that all the dishes she had set on the table had vanished without a trace. Feeling bewildered, she couldn't dismiss this experience as easily as the others. Meanwhile, Philip's younger brother Bobby sensed something was wrong too. He heard whispers and saw a figure in the basement. Terrified, he ran to his mother, who was also shaken from her own experiences. Together, they went to investigate but found nothing. Carmen, who had never believed in ghosts before, began to reconsider. Alan arrived the next day, just as a winter storm hit. Concerned about the kids' fears, he decided to address the issue at breakfast. He admitted that they were living in an old funeral home, but reassured them there was nothing to be afraid of. Despite their protests, Alan insisted it was just their imaginations. He asked Philip to set an example for the other kids, and not to scare them with ghost stories. Philip's treatments drained the family's funds, and strange happenings continued, including crucifixes disappearing from the house. The nightly disturbances became more frequent, with Philip and Bobby seeing the man in the lab room and other apparitions. Despite their terror, Alan dismissed their experiences once again, forcing them to go back to bed. Frustrated by not being believed, the boys began leaving their lights on at night, costing the family even more money. Alan, overwhelmed by the mounting debt, removed all but one light bulb from each of the kids' rooms in an attempt to save money. At night, the boys were awakened by their sister flicking non-existent light switches, but they saw her upstairs, fast asleep. They realized something sinister could take the form of family members. Meanwhile, Philip heard a voice calling from the lab room. Tired of living in fear, he decided to confront it. Inside, he faced a man with blood-filled eyes who whispered about the house's past. After this encounter, Philip's personality changed. He isolated himself in the basement, pushing away his brother. Despite his remission, Philip seemed indifferent. Later, their niece Teresa arrived, noticing Philip's strange behavior. He confided in her about the paranormal activity, feeling isolated and unheard. He shared terrifying experiences, including a demonic presence urging him to harm his family. Philip's hatred spread tension in the household. Daily fights erupted, especially between Philip and his father, who resented him for their financial troubles. Philip's diary revealed nightly visits from the demon, pushing him to do unspeakable things. Philip confided in Teresa about seeing trapped souls in the basement. Suddenly he attacked her, fleeing into her uncle's arms. Teresa, disturbed by the dysfunction, wept in her bed. Carmen gave her a rosary for comfort, which she wore that night. The Parker family believed something evil lived in their house and wanted it gone. They called their priest for help. He listened to their scary encounters but told them to forget about it, and it would stop. But it didn't stop. Karen, a family member, reached out to demon experts Ed and Lorraine Warren. After arriving at the house, they immediately sensed a demonic presence. With their guidance, a team documented the phenomena, enduring eerie experiences themselves. As the attacks intensified, Carmen became the primary target, tormented by guilt and fear. These experts believed the house was infested with a bad spirit. They needed the Catholic Church to approve an exorcism, which is a rare thing, so they moved into the house to record proof. After weeks of investigating, the church finally approved the exorcism. A priest named Father Richard came to do it. During the exorcism, Father Richard felt like he was being attacked by something he couldn't see. However, in the end, the family felt free from the evil presence. They believed their faith had helped get rid of it, and it was finally over. After the exorcism, they packed their belongings and moved out, hoping to leave the nightmare behind. Yet lingering doubts remain. The involvement of the Warrens, well-known demonologists, adds a layer of intrigue and credibility to the narrative, especially considering their reputation all over the world. Ultimately, the interpretation of events is left open-ended, leaving room for individual beliefs and perspectives on the supernatural. It's a story that raises questions about the nature of evil, the power of faith, and the human capacity to confront and overcome darkness. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Until next time, stay cautious and remain vigilant.
All right, places, everybody, please.
I'm the daughter of Ed and Lorraine Warren. When I was a little kid, I was not aware of what my parents did for a living. In the morning, my father would get up, he'd go down in his office, and he'd read about the occult. He'd find something to go and investigate, or somebody would call them and they'd go off on that case. People kept giving my father all these haunted objects, and they had to put them someplace. In a cabinet downstairs, my father told me, never open that cabinet up. I was afraid to be there.
Annabelle is probably the most haunted object in the Warrens Occult Museum. That came straight from Ed's mouth because of the havoc that it caused with people.
What'd you do to get in there? Something about that doll really does fascinate people. It's sitting in a box and behind glass. Sometimes her legs move and her arms move. She's supposed to be a little girl's cuddly toy, but she's not.
I like your doll.
I didn't see the doll for many years, and then I became very, very frightened of it.
The real life Judy was completely paralyzed with fear.
She still hates it.
My parents always told me, don't give it recognition. Don't look it in the eyes. And to this day, I will not look it in the eyes. I don't think about it. You keep making me think about it.
All right, friends, gather round for the horror event of the century. No, not another Marvel reboot. I'm talking about Annabelle, the Traveling Menace. Yes, the demonic Raggedy Ann doll has packed her invisible luggage and is now on tour, baby. She's got merch. She's got handlers. And apparently, she's also got the power to cause floods, fires, jailbreaks, and possibly lactose intolerance. All while just sitting there in a glass case, looking like a thrift store reject. Now listen, I'm a believing skeptic. I've experienced some weird stuff. I've had shadows move, voices speak when no one was there, and I once saw a ghost eat my last Hot Pocket. But even I have to draw the line somewhere. And that line, it's right between a haunted house and a PR stunt starring a stuffed toy with a resume padded by the Warrens. Yes, those Warrens. You know, the couple behind the biggest paranormal infomercials and questionable investigations of the 20th century. Look them up. It's like Scooby-Doo if Fred and Daphne charged for ghost tours and made up half the monsters. So now, Annabelle's out here causing disasters? Really? 10 prisoners escape in New Orleans and everyone's like, it was the doll! Not like, you know, security incompetence or human error. No, clearly Raggedy Death here telepathically picked the locks with her yarn hands. And Nottoway Plantation burning down? The doll did it! Not lightning, faulty wiring, or karma. But sure, let's blame a toy in a case. Meanwhile, she's apparently teleporting across state lines to cause 18-wheeler explosions in Texas. Because, why? She's mad about barbecue? And my personal favorite, the TikTok investigators. One guy's in full panic mode. Virginia ain't been right since. You mean Virginia, the state known for humidity, hurricanes, and historical trauma? Yeah, I'm sure that went sideways because a doll visited. Folks, if Annabelle had real demonic power, she wouldn't be on a publicity tour. She'd be, I don't know, overthrowing governments, not causing minor traffic incidents, and lighting up TikTok like a teenage poltergeist. Let's be honest. This isn't an evil spirit. It's a marketing strategy with bangs. You're not facing the forces of darkness. You're watching a horror-themed episode of Antiques Roadshow. Get a grip. It's a doll.
In today's video, brought to you by
the
Chihuahua.
I do have a question. I'd like to know, what is the correlation between Raggedy Ann and this Annabelle? Because I'm not seeing it.
It's an old... Okay, the reason I brought this up, this is probably the most famous of the Connecticut hauntings. And I think there was something going on with those people's lives, but they bring in the Warrens, and they had supposedly investigated this doll that looked like a Raggedy Ann doll. And it's supposedly really haunted, and now some guy that used to, what was it, Paranormal State or something like that, they're doing this. Now the Warrens are both dead, but all of these relics are in this museum that has since closed since Lorraine died, I don't know, a couple years ago. And apparently there's zoning issues and the building might even need to be condemned that all this stuff is in. So to raise money to do whatever with this museum, this guy, God, I can't remember his name. He was on some show, one of these paranormal shows. And in any event, they're going all over the country with this doll in a case and making this big thing about it where there's priests around, you know, throwing holy water. And it's this huge thing where it was like, oh man, this was like constantly on my feed because I follow this stuff for the show. And people are like, oh, you know, this doll was in my state and this mansion burned down because of it. And they think it's like this traveling curse. And so that's why that last guy, I thought, Al, you would find him funny because he was just like, oh man, he just spoke everything that I
with
thought.
sarcasm. This is wonderful. It's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. So that's what, we were talking about Robert the Doll last show, Bove. And so this one is like an equivalent of that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that after the show on Wednesday, when we were talking about Robert the Doll, I just happened to turn on the TV, hit HBO or Amazon Prime, and sure as shit, if Robert the Doll is not staring me in the face, I went, oh, hell no. And I changed the channel.
He's out to get you. So, but your thoughts, though, on this Connecticut haunting with this, I think that places hold energy, sort of. There's a lot of grief, all that kind of stuff that's going on from the funeral home. But then you have this situation where this boy is very sick, could possibly die. Then they've got all of this financial stuff. So there's a lot of energy swirling around. And, who knows, maybe some of this was poltergeist or something like that. From just all of these cooped up emotions that everybody was going through. And one of the accounts I read was that the Warrens basically were not invited at all. They didn't even want them there. And so everything like pumps up even more after they were there. At least they're out. It's a famous movie, that whole thing. But I'm curious what everybody's thoughts are on that. I'll unmute you, Cathy.
Well,
oh, she says no. Okay.
I thought it was a great movie, a trilogy. There's 3 of them. Annabelle 2, and Annabelle Comes Home, or something like that. I can't remember. They were very entertaining. They were very entertaining. Then again, I like horror movies, and if it's a horror movie based on supernatural, I'm there watching it on TV in the dark. But yeah, we both saw all 3 of those.
Yeah, but it was the documentary that told you all about the
Warrens and there's also
what was going on.
There's a documentary.
It was fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's still might be on Netflix. But yeah, it was a fascinating. How much of it was accurate or not, I guess that's left up to the individual, viewer. But I did not know up until very recently that the doll in the movie looks nothing like the actual doll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Did not know that. I was literally today years old.
So, Bo, that may have been why it was confusing to you, because it really does. The real one looks like a Raggedy Ann.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I saw that in the picture. But I was like, oh, then I did a quick, yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Raggedy.
Hollywood has to have its thrills.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That doll is very dramatic, and I
is.
couldn't have it in my home. I know that.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you open your bed and it's down there. It's like, oh.
Well, I wouldn't mind a Chucky doll.
No, stop it. In this documentary, have the Warrens been debunked?
Well, you got two camps, and none of them really involve debunking. One of them are true believers, and the rest are skeptics. And there are various levels of skepticism, but I don't think you can debunk something that you can't bunk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The doll isn't bunkable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a doll. It's like the guy said, it's just a doll, I mean,
right.
And, I'm not trying to put a damper on anyone's personal experiences. You've experienced what you've experienced, but that was pure Hollywood. The movies, like I said, were very entertaining, if you like that genre, but they were movies, they were fiction.
And I think that this is just my own skepticism, but a lot of these like ghost hunting things, and the Warrens too. I mean, there were so many stories about where a lot of what they did was just like fake or dramatized. They sold a lot of books. I read a bunch of their books too. It's very interesting. And I think some of what they went to, there probably was something going on, but it's all dramatized. And with them, everything is demons. And the thing is, I don't think that these activities, that we don't understand are necessarily demonic. They're just energy. But they threw this demonology kind of thing into it with everything that was going on. And I think that raised a lot of people's feathers too, just because just the way that they approached all of that.
Yeah. Well, you also have to consider that any of these, whether they're fiction, horror movies, or whether they're stories, or whether they're people like the Warrens, none of it would exist without the Catholic Church.
Exactly.
It just
exactly.
Wouldn't, So then you got to look at how do other cultures handle this? Does this even exist in places where there's 3 million gods? In Asia, Southeast Asia, or
that was actually
Cthulhu.
The angle I was
flying spaghetti monster.
No, that was the angle I was coming in from. That if you're a sensitive or empathic type personality and you can feel others' energy, whether it's positive,
sometimes injury too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do sense when people are hurting. My neighbor fell apart in the last couple of days, and we literally helped her fix her car and get her truck loaded and out. But, I felt where she was at. My heart was breaking.
Yeah.
So I involved my husband, whether he knew it or not, and we just got things done.
And there I am in the parking lot with a blowtorch and a stuck lug nut.
But anyway, so if you're that type of person, whatever you believe in is going to give you that experience. So if you believe in things that it's when the alien makes contact with you during whatever experiencing you're happening, or it's where Mother Earth is connecting its energy through, it's whatever you believe to be in that I'm in the presence of something I don't understand, but I'm not afraid of it either. I'm kind of like, questioning. But other people would be terrified of it. What kind of mind do you have, in narrow or broad? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
yeah,
I'm skeptical, but I also understand, I don't know, things we do in America to each other in the name of any religion, pick one, is also kind of just heartbreaking. So, you know what I mean? Their minds were already feeling for there's something more, there's something going on. And then you have all the training we've all had, and some countries are it is about that, and so much of whatever they consider higher being to them, that they will go into poverty. They believe it to that level and, doing all this, but others know to serve whatever gives them that feeling of this is interesting, this is fascinating, I'm going to dump all of my life and run after it, whatever that is. We all have it, but what we're trained to be is just how we see it. Does that make any sense?
It made absolute 100%
yes,
sense.
Absolutely. Which brings me to a question that popped into my head a little bit ago about the Warrens. If everything they were investigating and tangled with was demonic, like attracts like.
Yeah.
So was their energy of the light, and why are they attracting nothing but dark? So that I don't want to know nothing about the Warrens. I'm done.
Actually, they're well worth reading about. You said the documentaries on Netflix.
I'm pretty sure I'll tell you in a sec, but I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Search YouTube and find it. But the one that's a legit, I don't remember, was it a series, a little mini series or something? I can't remember either. But just to watch how it all became about and how that whole thing got started was fascinating.
Well, and wasn't it when they became popular at that time? Wasn't there like this demon scare crap going on in this country where like demonic Satan messages were being played back, on albums, and people are doing, And so then they come on the scene, and it's like perfect timing because he didn't have religious training or anything. Wasn't he a painter or something? And then, they take advantage of this. But if you believe that they can help, then it can probably help, just like a psychologist, in a way. If you've got some kind of issue and they come in and they plug into the same belief system that you have and do whatever, then, I can see that. But there are a lot of people that capitalize on this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When there's something truly, there are some places, I think, where something is truly going on. And then others of it, it's like how much of it is just mental illness, or mental.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking about the original story that we were talking about with that doll and all that, is that the son had a complicated life period between illness, mental illness. And so how much of it is explained by the son being out there, whatever he's doing.
Right.
So, and then it's amplified when you're like, trying to make ends meet to the point where you have to turn off lights, and unscrew them because you can't pay the electric bill. So the whole family is just going through this like intense
and then somebody comes in. But think about it then from the family side. They brought the media with them. They brought attention to themselves, which also does damage.
That's true.
Even if it's not the intent. You know what I'm saying? So,
exactly.
There's always who's going to profit off it. But,
now, I haven't researched to find out if that particular house, if the people living there now have gone through anything. I'm going to guess they don't. Just like the Amityville horror house, isn't it like the people that live there now are like, what's the deal? There's nothing in here,
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it is wherever you are mentally or even physically or whatever. And
or emotionally even, that can skew your view very easily and more so than anything.
Now, on the other hand, it's like there are laws, I know they are in Arizona, that you have to disclose if there has been, somebody killed themselves or there was a murder or something like that. Here. And I know I feel it. I mean, I remember when I was house hunting in Phoenix and went in this place, I could just feel it and see it. It was that strong, that energy. And at that time, that law wasn't out there. And I finally asked the realtor, I said, what happened in here? Because I can't deal with this. There's no way. And she was honest enough to tell me, somebody killed himself. I mean, I went right, I could feel it. It's like that energy is like in the walls or something, and so and at that age that I was, when I was looking at that house, I probably would have manifested all kinds of things in there too. I don't, so I think that might be part of what was going on in the haunting in Connecticut is just all of that tied together. Plus, if you're sensitive, and the child probably was, picking up on this was a funeral home and
absolutely
all of that's in there.
All right, I found this documentary. It's called Devil's Road, the true story of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Lorraine with an O. And according to the Google, it's available on Prime, Hulu, Netflix, and Max. So pick one.
Guess what I'm watching tonight?
Their story, their story is it's an interesting story. There's a lot of interesting stories out there. The accuracy, notwithstanding, but having watched the movies and then watched the documentary and then did some other research on it just for spit and giggles, it's their situations, their stories, the events, whatever, are more part of Catholic lore.
Yes.
In that niche of the supernatural world or the strange world or whatever, they occupy a very small space. And in other countries that are not, they don't observe the Abrahamic religions, stories of demons and witches, they mean nothing to them. They may have their own things, jinns or whatever, but
right,
it's a very, very narrow niche. And I don't think anyone really would have remembered them if it hadn't been for the success of the Annabelle movies.
Oh, yes. And The Haunting. And what was the other one? The Conjuring? Was that some... There was some...
Oh, that was an awesome movie.
Yeah.
Conjuring
Where was
2.
that? I don't remember where that was. Was that... What state was that house in?
Oh, I don't remember where it was. I know it was a cool movie.
Yeah. and actually their books sold very well too.
Yeah.
So, so with everything, I think take it with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
But in the meantime, if you can look up like Cathy did and see some interesting lights go by, I think that's awesome.
That's kind of that's a really good reflection of a metaphor. Sometimes what you're looking for is right in front of your face. You can sit there and troll YouTube and the internet and all the streaming services for paranormal stories and ghost movies and whatever, but all Cathy did was look up.
Yes. I love it. Well, we've hit our hour. I'm going to unmute you, Cathy. Well, she is unmuted. I hear her machine. I want to thank you for sharing your story, Cathy.
Yes, Cathy.
Yeah.
Let me unmute you. I'm trying to unmute her, but it won't. So anyway, I was going to see if you had any closing thoughts for us. There she is. Any closing thoughts for us, Cathy?
No.
Everyone
I just
goes
wish
froze up.
it lasted
There we
longer.
are. Everybody went away for a second. I was like, did everyone get abducted? My screen went blank. I still had the all four. It was just blank screens and little circles. I was like, oh, there are the lights. There are the lights.
There you go. Bob, what are your thoughts on all this?
Those damn dolls. They're gonna haunt me. They're gonna bug me. I'm gonna have to seek more information without getting too deep because it disturbs me. And everything we talked about regarding energy, emotional energy, I think it's all right on there. Think of the Wailing Wall. I have never been there, but could you imagine what the energy of that place is like? So yeah, that's where my mind was going. Thank you.
Good point. How about you, Day? Any thoughts?
Oh, I'm always thankful I can watch something cool based on a true story, knowing, everybody adds their spin, but to watch it play out in real time and also understanding the time period it's happening. And so in the time period it's happening, what is going on in society that is feeding off this? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And so that's going to change. Like nobody knew if you got rabies. It looked like you had a seizure, got taken over by demons, and you died. But no, you were having a seizure and you died. Do you know what I'm saying? So the more educated we are, the more like, nah, hang on.
So true. How about you, Al? Any thoughts?
Not that nothing past anything I said. A lot of it is, to me, is very good entertainment. Some of it does cause you to take a step back, and say, okay, this doesn't appear to be fake. So let me look into this. But, building your entire estate, because they're dead now, off of horror movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hold too much credence for the Warrens, and I'm, speaking as a recovering Catholic. Yeah, it just It's entertaining. It's very entertaining for me. Watch the Annabelle series if you like horror movies. They'll have to peel you off the ceiling, but it's a great entertainment.
Exactly. And so if there's a traffic accident on your highway, Annabelle did not do it.
Yes. That's true. And it's not the gays either.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyway, y'all, we'll pick up on Connecticut again next week because there's a lot more. I just hit the highlights. And I want to thank you all. Have a really fun Memorial Day weekend. And so we'll see you next Saturday. And thanks to all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.